मैं ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹਰਜਾਪ ਤੇ ਹਰੇਕ ਮੰਡੇ 7 ਵਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਐਨਆਰਆਈਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਦੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅਫੈਕਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ So let's talk with Harjap. And welcome back to the show. We're talking about the Golden Temple exhibition being held in central London at the moment. Just start to get this, right? That you look to lick from the writings from people's local diaries to ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਾਫੀ ਕੁਝ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਚਿਰ ਡਾਇਰੀ ਬਚਦੀ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ how do these writings survive? I mean, piece of paper, they don't last, you know, a lot of time. You've seen a piece of paper, what, 300 years old, 400 years old?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, for the book, we started the research. What we did, we looked for the earliest writings we could find in archives around the world. Because that's where they're kept. They're kept in museums and libraries around the world. They do exist. If you look for them,
you can find them.
But you've really got to hunt for them. And what we found the earliest writing by a Westerner. And this guy was actually a spy sent by the British into Ranjit Singh's empire before there were any foreigners in the empire. Before he started recruiting people from Napoleon's armies and all the rest of it, it was a purely, Indian empire of his own. And the British, they were eyeing his empire, and they were also wondering what the French and the Russians were up to coming through from Central Asia, through from Afghanistan. And his empire was in the way. So they were friendly with him, but they also they were keeping an eye on him. And they were quite keen on getting hold of it themselves one day. We'll have some of this one day. So they sent a spy off, sent this military man into Ranjit Singh's empire.
Did he stand out a bit?
Well, he did exactly. He was the only white man.
Walking around in the pendulum.
He was the only white man in the whole of the empire. Second to that, he only had one leg.
Oh, lovely spy! So master of disguise.
He was found out pretty quickly. So Ranjit Singh, found him pretty quickly, and then no. He showed him some hospitality.
He's a carpenter.
Yeah. He showed him round, and he took him to the Golden Temple. And he took him, and it wasn't actually gold when he actually took him there.
Right.
So the common name is the Golden Temple. That's why I wondered.
A lot of people don't know that. They think it was actually built with gold on it, but
it was actually Ranjit Singh who put, and other people who contributed. But mainly Ranjit Singh was the main benefactor who put the gold on the Golden Temple. Right. And he was also the man who put a city wall around Amritsar, so that it would never be destroyed again. Right. The Afghans destroyed it twice. Prior to that, the Mughals used it as a pleasure house. All kinds of things happened. But when Ranjit Singh came along and with the other Misildars, they gained power over Punjab. They made it safe once and for all.
And this is where I suppose our gentleman in the background comes in. Absolutely. The Hungs, which are an army of Sikh warriors.
Well, the word Nahang comes from Persian, and it means crocodile.
That's right.
Which in Persian literature is a metaphor for unstoppable courage. Right. And this is what the word means. The Nahangs themselves, the institution was set up by Guru Gobind Singh, and they were seen as the guardians of the faith. Right. And so that they were the people that you'd go to get initiation if you wanted to become a warrior. The sixth Guru Hargobind, set up the Akal Takht, the throne opposite the Darbar Sahib. Which was the balance. They realised that actually we couldn't have spiritual freedom unless we have worldly freedom. Right. Remember his father had just been executed by Jahangir, the fifth Guru, Gurajan. And these Nahangs, they come into... they're a separate entity to the rest of the Sikh kings. So, for example, Kali Fulla Singh, who was a leader, he would refer to Maharaja Ranjit Singh as not Maharaja, but as Ghana, the one with one eye. And although Ranjit Singh,
the king, that's right. King, right?
That's right. And he thought of himself. The Punjab was nothing for him. These guys believed that the whole world belonged to them. So when Ranjit Singh, for example, signed the treaty with the British, which says that the Sikhs can't go south of the River Satluj, then the Huns would say, well, hang on, we'll go where we like.
You can't stop us.
And that's part of the problem, because they would continually sort of cross over the river and go and visit the Gurdwara and go on their journey and fully armed to the teeth, and the British say, hang on, so what's going on here, Ranjit? And you can't control your guys, and he'd say, I can't.
You try stopping them.
So it's an interesting story, because this particular photograph, it doesn't come from Punjab, it comes from Hazur Sahib.
Right.
And in 1849, you know, the Punjabis are joined to the British Empire, and the Sikhs are disarmed. Right. The whole process is described as defanging the snake. Right. You know, that most of the common weapons were melted down to line the canals of Punjab and make war trophies. The more sort of bejeweled gold weapons were sold off in auctions or came over to England and now in our museums. And there was a shoot to kill policy because the Nahans weren't giving up their arms. And there was a shoot to kill policy. You know, if you saw them, you can shoot and kill them. And most of them, the majority of them, start to...
Like extermination.
That's right. Because they were an extreme threat. People realised, you know, remember, these are the people that initiate warriors.
Yeah. These guys were the ones who used to defend the temple.
That's right.
Before Ranjit Singh and all the Misldars came together. They were always there.
And they because there's a shoot-to-kill policy in Punjab, you know, they're marginalised, and many of them go down south. They go down south and settle in Hazur Sahib, which is where Guru Gobind Singh died. Yeah. And they then take their old system and their old sort of maryada and code of conduct, and they keep that system very much alive down south. So they still read the military text, they still worship weapons, like, you know, just as Guru Gobind Singh sort of instructed them to do. And it's a sad sort of ending, because it's what it meant was that firstly, you know, we talked about this, the education system sort of collapses, and unfortunately that, you know, the Bungi collapsed, and there's no education system because the patronage isn't there anymore. Yeah. And the military survives down south, and the conclusion of it in effect is that now when we go to Hazur Sahib, it seems very odd to us. It seems very alien and a little bit strange. Some of the practices are different to what we're used to in the Western world, and they're different to what we're used to in Punjab. And we look at them and think, you're a bit strange. And they turn around to us and say, no, you're strange.
We're just following the...
Yeah, you guys came under sort of the British education system. Your values changed, and our values are old school. You know. So you can find out a bit more about them and what happens down south also.
And what sort of support have you had from Gandhi support with the Ads Project?
We've had a lot of good support from friends and family and people we've always, you know, relied upon over the years. And we've also gone to corporate sponsors as well. Yeah. So we've got something. If you want to mention the companies or... I mean, big corporate sponsor is BMI. The airline.
Oh, British Midlands.
Yeah, because they've actually just started. They're about to start flights to Amritsar.
Well, from Birmingham.
From London as well.
Oh,
yeah. So look at so.
Yeah, I've been looking for one. About 8 times.
I think they're starting in October. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about religious institutions, like or anything like that? Has anyone helped you and all that?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Don't you can? I mean,
I suppose you can be blunt about it to a degree, which is basically of all the religious institutions, the Gurdwara that we approached.
Yeah. Did you approach them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we had hopes, and unfortunately, not one institution not one Gurdwara in the country supported us financially, which is a real shame because, you know, like Harbakhsh said, it's not for profit. There's a lot of hours, a lot of effort that's gone into this, and it's. You know, it's a way for us to sort of reach out to the community, particularly the English community, and also English-speaking, you know, first-generation Sikhs here, like people like myself, who've got this language barrier. How do they access knowledge? How do they get this information? Where do they go to get it? Because you know, the problem is that most people nowadays, particularly youngsters, feel alienated, you know, from the Gurdwara or from that system, and this is a way to sort of get that information.
Every community, right, or like say Western country, has its own trust usually, doesn't it? A government-funded trust to preserve items of its heritage and stuff like that. Don't you think that, well, first of all, the Sikhs should have a trust like this, and secondly, isn't this sort of the job which you would say maybe the SGPC or some institution like that should be doing instead of yourselves?
Yeah, I think possibly they could and should, but there's a lot of politics involved, as you know. And there's a lot of issues that Davinder is more knowledgeable about in terms of the authenticity of artefacts and the preservation of them. And when it comes to the money side, I'm talking more generally, I think these institutions tend to be more interested in gaining money than giving money. Yeah. So that's a problem. You know, you've got to have a real passion to do this, but you know, we'd like to carry on doing this. We've got this exhibition and we've got a book, and it's all been done for not for profit. If we make any money out of the book, which is very unlikely, if we make any money, we want to put that into more projects and more exhibitions and more talks and more websites. And carry something on. So, you know, we'd like to become something that people can look to and maybe help support in the future.
What about these talks that you've got on? Because at the exhibition, ਤੁਸੀਂ talks ਵੀ ਦੇਣੇ ਆ and a demonstration ਵੀ ਦੇਣਾ. Tell us a bit more about these.
Yeah, well, the exhibition itself, just to reiterate, it is a free exhibition.
Free?
Yeah, it's a free exhibition. There's no charge, right? It's a free exhibition. I very much...
ਦੇਖਣ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਘਰ ਦੀ ਆਉਣ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਰਣਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਵੋਟੀ ਦੇ ਕਾਂਟੀ ਤੁਰ ਕੇ ਲੈ ਜਾਓ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਬੰਦ ਸਵਾਨ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੱਗੂਗਾ. Can't do that stuff. But ਉੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ, it's all free, right?
Yeah, it's all alarmed as well.
What about where the location is?
It's a minute's walk from Russell Square Tube Station.
Russell Square Tube Station.
Yeah, Russell Square Tube Station, a minute's walk, and it's just behind the British Museum. So it's a free exhibition. I would encourage people to, if you want a group visit and you want a guided tour, because and that's free as well. I'd just like to sort of reiterate is that it really does enhance the experience. And I'm one of the curators, and Bhangal Singh is the main curator. And between the two of us, we like to sort of talk people through the exhibits, the artefacts. Accompanying the exhibition, you said, is a lecture series. We've had two lectures so far, two symposiums so far that have covered the photographic history of the Sikhs and the architecture. And now we've got 3 more lecture days that look at, on the 4th of September, we'll look at the martial traditions of the Sikhs, the origins of the martial traditions, and also the arms and armour associated with Sikhs and how to identify objects. We also, on that day, it's going to be amazing, is we have a man who's the last known survivor of the tradition, dying tradition of the Sikh martial heritage, which is basically Shastra Vidya, knowledge of weapons. He's the only man that we know to exist that sort of possesses this knowledge. And I'm not talking about regular gatka that we see at Navy stuff. I'm talking about the real science, the real fighting art, not the display art, which obviously still has a purpose, but it's not functioning martial art. And he's going to be doing a demonstration on that day, which will, I tell you, it'll be riveting. You meet this guy, and he's like he's just stepped out of the 18th century. Yeah, it's wonderful.
He's still there.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be a sellout event. So the tickets for these talks, because these are ticketed, is you can go through the website and you get for £10 you get a lunch and also access to 2 talks.
You know, if you want to come to that talk, you'll see this guy show how the Sikhs defended the Golden Temple in the old days. He's going to tell a story about this Nahang and his soldiers who allegedly defended the Golden Temple to the death.
Well, it's documented. It's not allegedly, because it's actually documented by the Afghans themselves. And it's how these group of warriors, 30 warriors, when the Afghans made one of their invasions, how 30, they died fighting, but 30 of them sort of defended against 30,000 Afghans. And he looking at the old accounts about how they did it and trying to reenact certain parts of that battle. Also looks at Baba Deep Singh, is a famous warrior that we know from the early 1700s who carried his head on his hand and looks into that myth and says, well, did he really? And if he didn't, how did he fight? How did it happen? So everything happens sort of through demonstration. The other talks also, on the 11th September, we look a bit more at the sort of philosophical side of things, looking at the manuscript tradition. And then on the 18th is our finale, which is a fantastic day where we've got a Muslim Rababi from by Madana's lineage, who's...
You actually have a Rababi coming down?
Yeah, he's coming from Lahore.
Because Honta fashion...
That's right.
With your help, Harjap, he's coming.
Yeah.
So he'll be
coming with the embassy.
Yeah, so he'll be
him and
coming.
15 others. Undocumented. So, first of all, thanks, guys, for coming down. And ਦੂਜੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਹੈ and ਉਹਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵਧਾਈ ਦੇ ਪਾਤਰ ਹੈ. You deserve congrats for that and deserve a tappy on the back for that. And any support someone out there, I'm sure they can be willing to give it to you. ਬਾਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਦਾ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਆਈ ਜਾਂਦਾ, people can contact you through that. ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫੋਨ ਨੰਬਰਸ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ. ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਇਹੀ ਅਰਜ ਕਰੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਦੇਖੋ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗਿਆਨ ਮਿਲਦਾ. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗਿਆਨ ਜੋ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਕੀਮਤੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ. ਇਹਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਵੈਲਿਊ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਕੀਮਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ. ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਗਿਆਨ ਦੇਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦਾ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਫ੍ਰੀ 'ਚ, ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਦਾ ਸੌਦਾ ਵੀ ਕਦੇ ਮਾੜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ. ਮਾਲੇ ਮੁਫਤ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦਿਲੇ ਬੇਰਹਿਮ. ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਗਾਹਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕੁਛ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮਿਲੂਗੀ ਸਿੱਖਣ ਲਈ, ਤੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਗਾਹਾਂ ਮਿਲੂਗੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਵੀ ਬਣੇਗਾ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. ਜੇ ਇਹ ਮੁੰਡਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿ ਇੰਨੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਜੋ ਹੈਰੀਟੇਜ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੌਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਖੁਦ ਖਰੀਦ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੱਲਿਓਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਲਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ, ਸਾਂਭ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ। ਹੱਲੇ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦਾ, ਇਹ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਧਾਰਮਿਕ ਇੰਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੌਮ ਦੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਬਣਦੀ ਕਿ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਬਚਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੀ ਜੋ ਖਾਸ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ। ਪਰ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਮੁੰਡਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸ਼ਾਬਾਸ਼ੀ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਤਾ। ਕਈਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਈ ਹੋਣੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋਣੇ ਔਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਪੂਰਾ ਘੰਟਾ ਉਹ ਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਕੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਕੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਪਰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਜਾਓ ਉੱਥੇ ਐਕਸੀਬਿਸ਼ਨ, ਗੋਰੇ ਵੀ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਉੱਥੇ, ਸਾਰੇ people come from all over the place, so ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਆਓ। ਬਾਕੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ। Today that's all we've got time for, but hopefully before the end of your exhibition, then if you let us in, we'll bring the cameras and we'll show to the world what you lot have got to show. But in the meantime, we're not going to show you that because you have to get off your backsides and go to Russell Square and see the exhibition. So Saturday now, Sunday, Saturday, Monday to Friday.
Yeah, it's open 6 days a week. 6 days out of September. Closed on Mondays. Late night on Thursdays.
Monday band kita.
So late night on Thursday until 8 o'clock. But all the details are on the website.
Chalo. Thank you very much for coming in. ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਤੇ ਹਰਬਖਸ਼ ਤੇ ਦਵਿੰਦਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੂੰਗਾ Friday 7 o'clock ਮਾਈ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਲੇ as usual. Until then, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।